what we're going to do, and implement some videos for the sites. I think it's important to give your business partners a reason to attend the meeting, not to just read an agenda and go over things, but to ask them for input to help improve the quality and strength of your CTE pathways. So last year we worked on industry certificates because what we might think as educators may not think be the same as what employers had said. So we've invested a lot in advanced manufacturing. So looking at, well, what if a student came with a Haas certificate? What does that mean to you? And some of our employers said, it means I need to retrain him. Well, I about fell on the floor because that isn't what I was thinking. So Eric's really involved in our program and others, and it's SBMI members. It's so important to hear what they have to say, what they're looking for, especially for these entry level positions when a student graduates and is going to the community college. Because our take is, and what we're trying to do, checking our boxes with the CD and doing everything great with high quality programs may not be what employers are looking for. And what are their concerns that they have coming in? Some of it has been with the contracts that they have with the Department of Defense contracts is the drug and getting people to pass the urine test for marijuana. That's a big issue in construction and other industries. And so how can I then help our students understand that? And I always tell our members, don't be offended. I don't want the over 50. I want the younger people coming in the classroom and explaining why it is important that you cannot be smoking weed and what you're giving up and what the opportunity costs are for those decisions. So I think giving your industry and business partners a reason to come, that their input is important. We're not just going to look at textbooks and curriculum review. It's things that will help our students and strengthen our programs, that it's so important. And then I use breakout groups, which was a little scary. On today's SCOE call, it was interesting that Zoom's implemented an enhancement to that feature where now you can put categories in. So you could put your pathways if you want, your industry sectors, and then let those members, or before I was trying to manage 100 and something people and make sure they went to the right group. And what if they didn't? And engineering ended up in culinary. And so that kind of eliminates some of that stress. So that's a really cool feature. But I want them talking with those educators because those are their business partners and those are their guest speakers. And those are the ones that are helping influence our curriculum for our students. So having that interactive in a virtual environment, and you have to respect everyone's time when you're there. Start on time, finish on time. If you want to have sidebars and other things later, but stick to the agenda because they're business professionals and they're giving up a lot to participate in our advisory committees. I think that's about it, Steve. And everybody's, zoomed out. We all are, but it's what we have right now.
No, that was good info.
Yeah, so that's why my thought this year was, let's do videos. Let's do something to jazz it up a little. I mean, Derek's video, the music at least was very engaging, even though the images were hard to see. So that's important.
Thanks, Alicia. Hey, Dan, can you give us about 5 or 10 minutes on the exciting, how do you get the engagement with your industry partners there at Yuba College? And how do you keep that engagement going year round?
Wow. Sure. I'm driving right now. So if you hear the whir of my engine, that's just my car. How I do that is a lot of lifting on my part. I try to meet the employers where they are. I go out a lot. My advisory committees sometimes take a week or two because I actually go to their places of employment with my agenda, go through it with them, let them get inputs. And what that also does is it gives them a more real ability to offer input. A lot of times when you have meetings, virtual meetings, you have 1 or 2 people that dominate the conversation. A lot of people don't want to speak up. So it puts a lot at ease. So I will compile a lot of different notes. Sometimes the employers don't want to talk because they don't want to give away their trade secrets, something like that. So I'll be very cognizant of that. I also utilize a lot. I deal a lot with the American Welding Society, the Fabricator Manufacturers Association, and I use the national standards that at WeldEd, been a member, trying to create the national standard, implementing those in, and then let the employers look at those standards to see if they're applicable. 100% agree with the drug testing. Trying to convince an 18-year-old nowadays that pot is illegal is very interesting, and some of the discussions we have with the students. I have some employers that'll come in and just say it straight up. Listen, this is what you have to do or don't do. But it's trying to make it more real. I agree. Is make it meaningful for the employer to show up. I've actually had advisory committee meetings where nobody shows up, and you're like, why didn't anybody show up? And then I go out and ask them, and they're like, well, the agenda looked exactly like the last time, and we were wondering if there's anything new or if we really needed to. So make it meaningful. We have new technologies in the shop that some of the employers are looking at purchasing. So allowing them to come in and put their hands on it and use it. That was when we had an advisory meeting, and we just called it new technologies. And the employers got to come in and see the new stuff we got and use it. And that helped them. Hold on just a second, maintenance guy. The heaters are working. Thank you. Yeah. So that was a really good advisory committee meeting because the employers got to utilize the equipment they're looking at and compare and contrast. Sometimes I'll bring in a special speaker from industry, and that's been popular. But with the virtual learning, I'm still trying to figure it out. One of the big things is running through the meeting ahead of time, make sure all of the technology is working. There's nothing worse than having a meeting where you're like, how do we push play? How do we get this? This isn't working. That's not working. I've had meetings that was a hard one. So make sure technology and always have an activity for the
Dan, you're kind of breaking up. Are you on your car phone?
I am. I'm connected to the internet, so I should be fine.
Okay, speak up.
We're still having a hard time hearing Dan.
Well, let's do this. Let's pivot real fast to John Zay, Sac City. He's done some great stuff with some virtual advisory meetings for his school, as well as he's even got some stuff together for their entire district. So John, will you take just a few minutes, and maybe Dan, if you actually get to a clear place, maybe we can bring you back on.
So, hi everybody. Yeah, so I actually have meetings with two different groups. I have advisory meetings for the HVAC sector, and now with our new program starting up, I have advisory meetings with the industrial maintenance mechanic sector. I think a lot of points, there's been a lot of good points that have been made. I think the number one point, everybody's time is very valuable. So only call a meeting when you need one. All right. If you don't need a meeting, don't call a meeting. In that way, as Dan pointed out, when the agendas start looking the same, well, then people quit showing up. So in fact, in the MET program, the HVAC program, I don't think we've had an advisory meeting. I think it was about 2 years ago, because there really hasn't been a need to have an advisory meeting. All right. So I haven't called one. All right. And the other thing is what's really important. Think about the people that are in your advisory committee. Think about their workload. Certain times a year, they're more busy than other times a year. So for like the HVAC industry, we definitely avoid the spring, the summer, and early fall. Okay. Actually, right about now is probably a good time. All right. We don't look at the late fall because the holidays are starting to kick in, right? Thanksgiving, Christmas, New Year's. And people are kind of in the holiday mood. So, and I think in the last meeting I had, which was for the industrial maintenance mechanic, I gave a brief summary of the progress we made over the 12 months since we started the program. And then I advised them of where we were going, which was primarily in the fall. We weren't going to offer any classes because we couldn't have online face-to-face labs. And then the rest of the meeting, I pretty much turned it over to the advisory members, because I'm really interested in hear what they have to say. And I kind of go in this the whole meeting with the idea that we train the students, and our industry advisory members hire our students. So tell me what you want, and that's what we'll do. Okay. And that's kind of what we've been doing. They told us they wanted an OSHA 10 general safety class, so we put that together. They said they wanted, when it came to PLCs, they told us that they wanted Allen Bradley, so we bought Allen Bradley. They told us that we bought a robotic arm that said buy a Kawasaki, so we bought a Kawasaki. All right. So, and then we report back, this is what we did. All right. And I think listening and then following up on what they say, and you take it, and they see that you take it to heart, and they see that you're actually implementing their suggestions, makes them want to be involved. Okay. And I think the biggest, and I'll go back, the biggest thing is there's got to be a need for the employers to show up, for your industry partners to show up. And a good example of that would be in the HVAC industry. You know, the MET program has been around for 65 years plus. Everybody in the area knows who we are. They're always calling us. All right. So they know what we're about. We're very well established. All right. So we don't really need a need. We don't, because every time we get together, hey, you guys are doing just great. Don't change nothing. So why are we getting together? But in the maintenance mechanic, I mean, that's a brand new program, and there's a lot of need out there. And we need a lot of input from the employers, and the employers want to give us a lot of input. So it becomes very, very valuable. And the other thing is, I would be single tasked when you have an industry advisory meeting. A couple of years ago in the MET program, we did an advisory meeting, and we included, we kind of made it a Prop 39 regional meeting back in the Prop 39 days, and it was a total disaster. Okay. There was just, our industry partners could care less of the politics of Prop 39. And so be careful of who you invite as guest speakers. All right. And then obviously you have to have an agenda, keep it short, follow the agenda. And about a week to 2 weeks after the meeting, you probably should follow up with a summary of everything that happened in that meeting. Okay. So just to refresh people's mind. And a lot of my advisory meetings are really or one-on-one. I call people up, I talk to them just like Dan was saying, and then we get together as a group when we need to. But I think the one-on-one works really, really well because everybody has their own special needs, and not everybody wants to share those needs with their competitors, right? But kind of right now, the big need right now is that the workforce is too small, and we need to make it a lot bigger. All right. So that's pretty universal in all, I would say all blue collar jobs, right? There's just nobody going into them. So that's kind of how I run my meetings. All right. All right. Any questions?
Thanks. That's great.
All right.
Hey, so Dan Frank would like to chime in. Dan, tell us a little bit about what you're thinking.
Hey, well, thanks. I'm sorry I'm a little late to the meeting, but the one-on-one with the industry partners is really the big key. It's all relationship based. And building those strong relationships is what worked for me when I was teaching at the high school. Trying to get people in the same room at the same time, you know, when you don't have those relationships can be really, really hard. And then I always tried to go in with a game plan, and my game plan was usually student centered. So I really wanted to have graduates. And a lot of my advisory committees were honestly a bunch of show and tell for administrators, so they could see there was support from outside the system. It just helped me leverage my administration when I needed to. So I would try to have students talk about some of their success stories, whether it was recent graduates or juniors and seniors that were excelling in the program. And then ask, you know, the common ask almost yearly was from the industry partners was, what are you seeing that are issues? You've seen what our curriculum is. You've heard from our students what they're doing. What kind of tools, technologies, what things might we need to change in order to have students or more students that would meet your needs? And oftentimes, some of the things may be super granular, like, oh, everybody should be learning SolidWorks, you know, or everybody should be doing this. And sometimes they were very much pie in the sky, you know, oh, it'd be nice if they had work ethic. So trying one-on-one afterwards, meeting with or talking with the different employers to really drill down and what does that mean? What does work ethic mean to you? What does it mean to me? And what does it mean to a high schooler? And how do we get on the same page so we're all working towards the same goals? That's just kind of my thoughts about the advisory committee and how I kind of worked with my advisory committees over the years.
You know, I think all these have just been great ideas everybody shared. And hopefully you've had a chance to look what I cut and pasted that Roy Ingram sent me earlier, and I pasted it early in the chat. And so we've got a few minutes left. I know Rob, Elk Grove, John O, Placer Union. Max, what about, I've heard that El Dorado Union High School District has done some great virtual advisory meetings here in the last year. Any of you three want to just chime in on what really worked and what you recommend to the group?
Yeah, hey, I'll chime in.
Go for it.
So, or Max, you want?
Go for it, Rob.
Okay. So, you know, one of the things that I think I'm hyper conscious about my industry partners' time, and you know, their time is money to them. They're an industry. I want to cut in on that as little as I can, and so I absolutely have an agenda going into it, but I want to make sure that they're all on the same page. So after we've established a date for our meeting and I have sent out an agenda, I will send out information. That information could be, you know, just an overview of what we've done the previous year, or talking about some purchases, talking about some needs. If there's, say we need a new piece of equipment, something broke, or I'm looking to expand into some new kind of technology, I'll send out literature quotes from different manufacturers, and just provide them with something that they can glance through ahead of time. So then when we do get to the meeting, we say, hey, you know, okay, talking about that planer that we need, you know, we see there's 5 different models here, and we can easily hit on those things quickly without wasting their time. So that's been kind of my go-to when we get down to advisory meetings, just not wasting their time.
Thanks, Rob. Max, tell us what's going on with your district. I hear some great things about your district.
Yeah, we've been doing pretty well. I mean, we have the district level advisory board that is managed by the upper administrators, but I think, as like Dan alluded to, is having rightfully kind of, because again, if you're lumped in with, say, I mean, El Dorado Union does a pretty good job with its health it's veterinary, and we still also have ROP type classes, but you're all lumped in there kind of together. It depends on who you are and what initiative you want to take, and maybe it's sometimes to just do it yourself and no one's going to say no necessarily, but if you need to ask for forgiveness later. But I would say step up and actually try and orchestrate your own advisory boards to your specific pathway or program so that you can be more specific, because those meetings are at a high level, again, checking off the boxes to remain eligible for Perkins funds, you know, and again, the employers don't care about that particular wording, but it's making it in the language that the employers can understand as, hey, we need your involvement so we can gain access to money. Okay. And I guess learning to speak their lingo, I guess that's the biggest thing I learned as becoming an educator, is that the educators speak very different language than what the industry people do. And it's presenting it out in terms of money, return on investment. Our intention is to provide you with entry-level employees right away, and even mid-level higher employees. So using that language, and again, is specifically touching on the tangible skills you are going to attempt to be teaching your students, so it will be immediately valuable to those employers. I think has helped me to maintain the engagement and the enthusiasm of those employers, is like, hey, I know that part of my job is to be providing you with candidates here, and I'm not doing my job correctly if you guys aren't coming back to me and asking, hey, do you have more candidates for me, right? So I think that's been a helpful thing of understanding that language difference, and again, making it clear to them why you need their engagement. It's so that you are going to be competitive for money. And I've also thrown this out here as, hey, there's lots of career technology education dollars available at the grant level, but we are also in competition for those health programs, the veterinary programs, the business programs. So it helps us get more money and focus resources towards your industry sector if we can show that you guys are involved. And I think that's resonated pretty well with them too, to help keep them engaged. And again, reiterating what Rob said, is being specific about what equipment you are interested in getting. That worked out really well for me here, because more often than not, if you throw out a very specific piece of equipment at an industry quality, you're going to get, yeah, go for that equipment. We're not going to stand in your way if you could land that, you know.
Max, if I could interrupt you real quick, I think,
Yeah, Tim.
I don't think you can reiterate that point enough. I used to have a real job before I started working at Autodesk, and and I think it's important. You know, I'm still super busy now, and I've worked with Dan and some other people on this call, but you know, to just be open, right? If just showing our relationship to our advisory board or whoever, you know, helps get money to buy this equipment and this equipment, you know, it's just kind of tie that relationship together. I think so many people in industry feel like if they get involved with something like this, they need to help with curriculum, or they need to help with, you know, some of that kind of stuff. And I think just being as clear as you just said it right there, it's like just showing your support of our program is going to help us get money, and that's going to do this. I think you can kind of drill down on that enough.
Right. And I think one of the things that worked out well and why we've landed a couple of the big grants was that I prepped the industry people of, okay, be heads up, because you are likely, if you're behind and on board, keep your eyeballs peeled for this email that's going to have the form letter there for you guys to sign and return, because that counts as the check marks on our metrics for being eligible for this grant. And again, priming them with the specifics of what to be looking out for, and tell them, hey, it's not going to involve a lot more time from you other than the signature, and it's kind of a formality there, but it's a very important formality. So I think that's gone a long way. And I think like Alicia's been doing that pretty well, as I've seen that from her end, and Folsom and all the rest. But yeah, that I think is helpful, being very, very clear about what is going to help, and that it's not going to take a huge amount. I mean, the only other thing, I've put this on hold, but my ideal, and I was doing, like, for me, especially at the high school level, and again, you can't do this unless you've established relationships, like Dan said, but having an ongoing close group of probably 3 to 4 employers that are willing to meet on a bi-monthly, even by the phone, or say, hey, we're going to check in and I want to just make sure that you're doing this. For me, that was always what I was hoping to do. And again, that's separate from a district level advisory board that's way like the 30,000 foot view. But again, establishing a relationship, or once you do say land, and I have now, fortunately, like if you land students at particular companies as interns, that's obviously then a hook. Like you've got that employer now, they've swallowed it. And again, you could reiterate that to, hey, how is this? In a general sense, yeah, you have to separate the individual out a little bit, but hey, are you seeing any overarching things that maybe I was missing that I need to address in my curriculum? And how do you approach this particular technical thing? Again, that's how you could get them involved a little bit more. They don't have to develop the curriculum themselves, but that gives you some insight as, I need to rethink how I'm teaching this particular thing. And again, they can see the buy-in, like that you're actually having them specifically in mind with the way that you're running your classes. I think that's going to go, it takes a lot of time to get there, and I'm not even there yet, but I think that's, again, we are in a weird position where we're serving no fewer than probably 4 different masters and customers. You know, we see our students day to day. That's customer number 1, who is the most important in the background there. And there's, again, all these things that are outside of our control, but those companies are also our customers because they're seeking out our highly skilled product that we're making, which is our students. Okay. We've also got our administrators that we got to please and keep going. And again, that comes back to the students. We have to play the popularity game to make sure that they want to take these elective classes, you know. But then, yeah, so on top of the administrators and all the dashboard things, but it is also now the parents that we have to pitch this to as well, you know. So again, I guess that's the other component. Dan touched on having students there at the industry advisory board meetings, but I also ran one where I had parents there. Okay. Yep. And so that's the other thing to do too, and make sure, because it's that crazy balancing act between those 4 customers that you got to satisfy everybody. And again, it's having those 4 stakeholders there all at the same time. It's challenging, but again, you got to make that happen. So I guess that's the only other point of information I could toss in there.
And Max, I want to piggyback on what you and Tim said, where,
yeah.
You know, I agree. It's all about relationships. I also, and it's not exactly advisory board kind of things, but because of those relationships, I always felt comfortable when I identified areas where I needed to upskill. You know, that's how I met Tim. I was at a point where I needed to upskill, and Tim happened to get name dropped, and I got introduced to him. So, you know, don't be shy about working your network and going, look, there's stuff I don't know that I need to learn, and I need to learn quick. Who's the right person to learn from?
I'll just say that, I mean, I still deal with industry people daily. Most of my friends are industry people that are kind of in the space you guys are talking about. And people are literally tripping over themselves wanting to be a part of it. They're just really busy. And I don't think a lot of them kind of can think about how they could help inspire young people to get into the manufacturing world. And so I think just be real explicit of what you hope to get from them, and everybody's kind of said, be mindful and, you know, respectful of their time, because the industry is super, super busy right now.
And this is Dan, I'm back. I'm on my computer now so I can see everybody. Hi. Another thing that I did is I do with the advisories is I actually take my industry partners' gifts, like, hey, we made this sign for you on the plasma table. Hey, we did this little desk thing so you can put it on your desk that says Yuba College Welding in Partnership, or you make little things for them, because too often we as schools, we get so caught up in we don't have enough materials. Can you donate? Can you donate? Can you donate? And if a lot of times just a little something on their desk, or a little gratitude of giving back, or so I'll go down and buy a bunch of $5 Starbucks gift cards. I know it's only one coffee, but here, have it. Thank you so much for your help. Be careful though, because one time I took Christmas trees to all my industry partners, and I took one in, and they looked at me and said, "Oh, we don't celebrate Christmas." So I was like, okay, and I took the Christmas tree out of there, and it was we laughed about it for years, but I didn't know. So sometimes double checking what you're doing, but showing your gratitude and taking them something a lot of times just goes a long way, because too often we as education just have our hands out asking. And sometimes just asking the employers, What do you need? How can I help you? And everywhere I go, I'll piggyback on what Tim said. Employers want to help with education. They want to be involved. Education wants employers to be involved. It's just we need that bridge, and sometimes that cold call, sometimes that just that phone call, sometimes whatever. Just it goes miles. Just showing an ounce of effort to go and ask them to be involved.
Yeah, I think it's, not to keep jumping in, but I think a lot of people in my position, a lot of engineers, a lot of people in machining, they're all kind of felt lost before they found a teacher like some of you guys. So I think everybody, and then on top of that, the industry is very underserved for staff right now. You talk to any shop, and I think somebody mentioned it earlier. They just want someone. Unfortunately, the bar's not super high. They want someone that can show up, that's not smoking weed and shows up on time and has half of a brain. So yeah, just what you said, Dan, about bringing them something they can put on their desk. I've got a bookshelf over here with some really amazing parts that I made, and I usually tell the stories about parts that one of Dan's students made for me. So I'll just kind of reiterate. I think a lot of you guys are saying all the right things. So thanks for all the work you guys are doing.
Thank you, everybody. There's been some great discussion and great ideas. I know Jeff had an opportunity to actually record all the stuff on the advisory. So we'll get that out to you here shortly. John Zay, did you have something? You had your hand up because we're basically at the bottom of the hour. So we got to wrap this up real quick.
Yeah, I just a couple things. One is, Max talked about having 3 or 4 key industry partners, which was a really great recommendation. But I kind of wanted to add on to that is that the diversity in your industry partner is really important. So don't load it up in all one industry. Spread it out to the different industries that are in your discipline, and you'll get better results. And the other thing that I wanted to add on to is when we ask for donations, a really good lesson I learned with Siemens back in their HVAC program in Chicago. We're all asking for stuff from Siemens, and the regional manager, it was a real enlightening response. Basically says, you need to prove to us that the stuff that we're going to give you is not going to sit on the shelf, but you're actually going to use it. Before we invest any money into you, we want to see results. We want to see what you're doing. You got to have a plan. So keep that in mind when you're asking for donations, right? And I think that's really, really important. So that's all I wanted to add. Thank you.
To piggyback on John, sometimes taking pictures, like if I get a metal donation, you take pictures of the students welding on it, and you post on Instagram and tag the employer, or you take pictures and put it in a frame so you take it in so they can put it on their wall. So again, that's an excellent idea.
So this has been a great sharing session. I really appreciate everybody stepping up. And so anybody have any closing thoughts? Jeff, do you want to say anything from your vantage point?
Yes, if I can get off mute. Yeah, I just wanted to add that if anybody does have any problems connecting with industry folks, reach out to me, and maybe we could take a different approach. If there's somebody that you want to partner with, you just have trouble connecting with, let us try to help you with that. That's all I have to add.
Well, everyone, I think this is outstanding. Thank you all for participating. I hope the rain really comes and the snow level gets low. We get lots of it. Any other parting thoughts, or shall we get together again later next month?
I guess next month.
Next month.
Well, thank you, everybody.
The end of the month.
Thanks, Steve.
everyone.
Thanks everybody for your
Thanks a lot,
input.
guys. We'll see you all later, right?
Bye, guys.
Take
Bye.
care, everybody. Thank you.
Hey, Matt. Matt Wynn, did you ever get my email?
What's that now?
Did get my email? This is Dykus talking.
Oh, yes, I did. It got buried almost immediately. Sorry. Yes,
I'm